Among the most common comments we hear when talking to marketers is that they are frustrated by the inability to make changes to their website without waiting on IT staff or web developers. One of the great things about Progress Sitefinity Platform and DX Fusion Financial is that marketers have the tools they need to not only make content changes, but to build entirely new web pages without waiting on IT or outside help. So in this video, I'll play the part of a marketer working with our mortgage department to create a campaign landing page. Let's pretend we'll be running a TV commercial to drive traffic to a page where users can learn about low rates and refinancing a home. I'll start here in the CMS backend and create a new page. We'll call the page Refinance. I want this page to be under our existing mortgage page, so I'll select Borrow and then Mortgage. I don't want it to be in the navigation since it's more of a hidden campaign page. The next step is to select a template, and there's lots of different templates here to choose from, but we've got some custom ones for our Fusion Financial site, and I want to choose this subpage one that's already in use by 32 other pages, so I know it's the right one. Once I've selected the subpage, the empty page will be created, and you'll see that I've got a place to drag content. I've also got the standard sort of alert and navigation and footer. So it's a nice visual representation of what the page is going to look like. First thing I want to add to the main content area is a hero widget. And the hero is that large image that shows up at the top of the page. And I can click edit and go into the designer here, and I can type some kind of general content. Refinance your home now. And I can format that, and I'll just do something simple and add an H1. I can also choose a background image that's going to show up here. So I'll select image, and I'll go to my image libraries. I've got them organized, and I'll choose one from the hero. And maybe I'll choose this couple with the laptop, let's say. I can also specify the transparency of that overlay. So I'll just leave it at the default 50%, and I don't need a foreground image. So I'll save that. And now we've got our hero on the page. And the next thing we want to do is start to add some content in the body of the page. So to do that, I'm going to go to the layout section, and I'm going to drag a container to the page. Get that added. And then I'm going to go back to content, and now we've got a spot where we can drag some different widgets. So the first thing I'm going to do is under the content section, I'm going to grab a content block and drop that in the container. And then I'll click to add some content. And ideally I would have had this typed up in a Word document or something, but we'll just put refinance your home now and format that as an H2. And we might have some other sub information here. And then we'll keep this consistent with our design and just center all that. Hit save. And so now we've got a piece of content. And maybe the next thing that we want to do is give the user some options. Maybe we want to allow them to contact a loan officer, or complete a contact form would be a good thing for them to do on this campaign landing page. But first, let's add some loan officers. So I'm going to go down to people, and this uses our people widget. I'm going to drop it on the page. And by default, it pulls in all the people that have been entered into our people content type. But I want to format that because right now it's showing CEO and president. I just want to filter that down to just some loan officers. And I'm actually going to select just a few specific loan officers. So maybe these are the highest producers or something. So I'm going to select those 3 people, and then I'm going to save that. So now we've got some loan officers that maybe they can contact. And then maybe we also want them to be able to fill out a form. So I'm going to add another piece of content here, and it might say something like contact us today, and we will make that an H2, and we'll center that as well. And then underneath that, we're going to drag a form widget. And ahead of time, I've already created a few forms. There's various contact forms and auto loan forms. I'm going to use this mortgage contact form that I've already created. So when I hit save, it'll pre-populate that form with first name, last name, email, message, and phone, and that can be submitted. And then a couple of last things I want to add. One, I'll add another content block. And this one, we're going to call out maybe some helpful resources, for additional education. And we'll format that as an H2 and center it. And what I'm going to do next is drag in some blog posts. And so again, by default, it's just pulling in this bulleted list of posts. But what I want to do is I want to change the list settings to be a small group. In other words, a small CSS style is added to that, so it'll look a little bit better. And then I only want to select blogs who have a tag that is mortgage. So we've got various different tags on our blog posts. So I want to pull in the ones that have to do with mortgage, and I'm going to hit save. So now there are 2 blog posts that can be helpful resources for additional education, and these are just the ones tagged with mortgage. And the last thing I'll do is I'm going to add a call to action. So maybe there's some other kind of call to action we might want these users to do. I'll click edit and go to this edit screen. I'll give it some kind of title. Now you probably wouldn't have all these various calls to action on the same page, but just to give you a sense for how this works, and this can direct them maybe to the Contact Us page. So now we've got another call to action that might have them go somewhere else. So let's add a question mark there and save it. And then let's publish this page and let's go back and view it on the site. So here's this new page, Refinance, and we'll view it. All right, so we've got our hero image at the top. We've got our loan officers. We've got a Contact Us form. We've got our blog post, and then we've got our call to action. So it's not looking too bad. So the idea here is that you could click on a loan officer and you could learn more about that loan officer. But when I click on that loan officer page, it's doing something strange. It's not taking me to the details for that loan officer that I would expect. The same thing is happening down here on these blog posts. So if I click on the blog post, it's showing me basically the same page without the blog content. So what we need to do is over on that Refinance page, we need to specify the child location for each of those different kind of content types. So for people, if I click on edit and then I go to the single item settings, instead of using this auto-generated page, I want to choose an existing page, and I'm going to direct these to the mortgage loan officer details page that we already have created and save that. And I'm going to do the same thing for the blog posts. I'm going to click on edit and go to the single item settings. Instead of an auto-generated page, I want to go to the blog post page that we've already created, that's already been styled appropriately, and save that. Now I'll do one more publish and come back and refresh that finance page, and we'll make sure that the child pages work as expected. Now if you're new to this editing experience, it's really not difficult to learn. In about an hour of training we can show you how that will work. So now we've got an individual page that looks like the loan officer pages should look, and now these should go to the individual blog post and use the main blog template like all the other blog posts use. So that's looking good. The only other thing we might want to do, this is kind of all crammed together, and so what we could do is we could add some spacing, and we could do that in the layout, and we could come into the container and we could add some classes. So this is where using some Bootstrap classes or some CSS classes can be handy. You can come over to the design system that we've provided, and this is a resource for you. And you can see under the section for padding helper, you can see the class that you would need to add some padding around that container. And again, this is something with a little bit of training that's easy to learn. So now we've added some padding at least to the top of that container, and we could do the same thing for the others, but for now I'll just go ahead and publish this, and then we will refresh it and see what that looks like. You can see how easy it is to add content, to add various content types like people, a form, and blog posts, and calls to action, and we picked up that padding around the container. We could probably put each of these sections in their own container if we wanted to give them some more padding, but hopefully this gives you the idea of how easy it is to build a page once you have all these components and building blocks at your disposal. Now the last thing I want to do is I want to point out that so far I've been working on the dev side, the development side. Our actual live URL for Fusion Financial is fusionfinancial.smoothfusion.com. But in most normal content editing situations, you don't want to be editing content right on the live site. So what we do is we edit the content on a development site or a content staging site, make sure it all looks good, make sure it works like we expect, and then what we can do is use the functionality that's built into Sitefinity to publish and sync. And so I've already set up the syncing mechanism such that this site, the dev site, will sync content out to the production site. So once this page has been successfully published and synced, then we should be able to go to the live site, go under borrow and mortgage, and then at the end of that it is refinance. And now we've got that new page, looks good, on live after being tested on the development site. So again, hopefully this gives you a sense for how you might start to build pages on the fly, get things to market more quickly, and help start meeting the needs of your customers.